It's been more than 2 decades since the Pontiac Trans Am went out of production, but the racing series that inspired its name is alive and well, and loud. Trans Am was born in 1966 and was a premier road racing series in the U.S. into the 1970s, with legends like Dan Gurney and Mark Donohue battled it out in American muscle cars. Today it runs a national schedule across a dozen events that visit several legendary tracks, including Sebring, Watkins Glen, and Lime Rock Park. These cars are designed to look like production models like the Ford Mustang and the Chevrolet Camaro, but they are purpose-built race cars. They have tube frames, live rear axles, tons of downforce, and 850 horsepower V8s. What they don't have are traction control, stability control, or automatic transmissions. If you're going to want to drive one of these, you're going to have to learn how to drive stick. Adam Andretti grew up in America's most famous racing family and has been a fixture in the Trans Am series for the past decade.
These are a beast that are endangered, if you will. They're not out there all that much. We're starting to get away from that in society, and even in the racing side, we're starting to see more of that carry over, you know, like if you in the endurance racing, and they have literally every creature comfort that you have in your street car with air conditioning even. You know, these are raw. They don't have any of that. We're 130 degrees inside this car, but it's definitely a type of car racing that the driver can make a difference.
Along with the top TA class, there's a TA2 class featuring 530 horsepower cars built on a spec chassis that's aimed at up-and-coming drivers and attracts dozens of entries to some events. Road racing great Boris Said is a familiar face in Trans Am, and his son Boris Jr. currently drives in TA2. You've raced every kind of road course car imaginable. How do these compare to the other series?
I mean, I've raced Trans Am for a long time, and it's one of my favorite cars for the reason, you know, now with all these new GT3 cars and all the electronic aids like paddle shift and ABS and traction control, I'm not a big fan of that. I mean, it's great for the street, but these cars are raw. You know, they have 4-speed gearboxes, no ABS, no traction control, a lot of horsepower. You know, the TA1 cars are probably the best car I've ever driven as far as fun value. So I think it's good training for young drivers, and the racing's fantastic, the competition.
What this brings is it's a lower cost to go racing, but very, very competitive and experience at all Tier 1 racetracks. TA, we encourage development. Most race series today are trying to put people in a box. That class is, if you can build it and it's fast, go race it. The rule book step in.
Except for engine size and carburetor size, and having 4 tires that have to stay on the ground all the time, the rules are pretty open.
I mean, that's how racing should be, shouldn't it?
That's how it started. That's how it all started, right? Was the creativity of it, and you could build something in your garage to go compete against the factories, and now the factories have pretty much made it to where it's just their show, and they battle amongst themselves, and you don't see. That's what I love so much about the Trans Am series. On all levels, it's still like you can make the difference. There's a group of people that are totally making the difference, not a bunch of engineers sitting in a desk 1,000 miles away on a computer telling you what you need to do at the racetrack. So it's a totally different environment, and one that I rather enjoy.
And the TA2 class is about as tight a racing as you'll ever see. We manage it very tight, and I can tell you within first place to 10th place is usually less than a second separation. Maintain cost control, maintain a level playing field from a setup standpoint. It's all on the driver. This is a development series, but it's a pro series. The starting Daytona 500, they had 40 cars. 10 of them came through TA2 in the last 3 years. To buy a new TA2 car today, it's about $150,000, which is it's a lot of money, but it's very inexpensive in today's world. To pilot a brand new Trans Am car, $500,000 off.
Take a certain kind of driver to drive one of these or a TA?
Yeah, I mean, because you can't rely on any of the electronic aids that, you know, the GT3 cars like these GT3 Porsches are more like driving a sim. You just slam the brake pedal as hard as you can, and you know, you let the computer do everything. Here you got to use your feel, your foot, your butt, everything, you know, just requires a lot more finesse. and like the old days. And I like the old school driving better, I think.
No pit stops, no tire changes. What's it take to win?
It's a 100-mile sprint race. Here's tough. Lime Rock's a tricky track because of the traffic. It's a tight track. It's a very fast lap time, 52-second lap time. So, you really got to work traffic and you got to save your tires. You got to have the car at the end.
If you don't manage the tires in a place like this, you'll come out fast, and by the end of the race, you don't have the car you had. As the fuel level goes down, the car changes. It takes a very skilled driver to run the same lap time at the end of the race as it does the beginning of the race.
Along with its unique brand of racing, Parella says Trans Am aims to deliver a fan-friendly atmosphere that's not always found in some major racing series.
The fact that you can walk the paddock, sit in the car, talk to the drivers, family atmosphere, ticket costs, all of those things. This is where a single mom can take her kids to go watch a race and afford it. And this is where you come to see an amazing, tight road racing show.
You think it could get back to where it was in the 60s and 70s?
Oh, I think so, for sure. The fans are there, and folks like you, and as more coverage we get from anyone, should draw eyeballs to it. And once your eyes, love at first sight, you see a lot of that in Trans Am. Once the race fan sees the product that's out there on the track and what they're watching, we usually have them for life.
My ultimate goal is to make this part of mainstream motorsports. And that definition to me means Trans Am brand should be mentioned in the same breath as NASCAR, IndyCar, and we're not there today. We will be someday.